All right, ladies, we are moving on in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, Chapter 6, Into Action, page 78, partway down. Most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors. Telling them what we are trying to do, we make no bones about our drinking. They usually know anyways, whether we think so or not. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory it may cause financial harm. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know we are sorry. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. We must lose our fear of creditors no matter how far we have to go, for we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them. All right, we're going to just break this one right down and talk finances before we move on to the next paragraph. So, yeah, we all pretty much come into this program with crappy finances and we owe money. And basically, we're going to not dodge our creditors. So when they call, we're going to pick up the phone and we're going to explain, yeah, you know what, like me, myself, I say I went through a really bad divorce and addiction is part of my history. I'm working really hard to clean this up. Is there anything we can do? This is what I'm able to pay now. And actually stick to that payment plan. There's some that are small, you can clean those up right away. There's some that are larger that it's going to take a little bit more time. There's some that maybe you have gotten in a situation where you still have a good job and you can go into your bank and say to your bank manager, hey, I'm trying to clean up my past. This is my situation. Guess what? These people know. They've heard it before. You're not the first. You're not going to be the last. And most of those people that get jobs calling you as a creditor used to be us. I found that to be true. They're like, oh, are you in the program? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that's awesome. And they're really understanding because the people that usually are those bill collectors usually are, one of us. I found that in almost every instance. This also goes to say, if you are someone who likes to have nice things, I wouldn't be going around getting my $100 eyelashes, $100 nails, driving a Mercedes if I owe everyone in the countryside money. Drive the humble car, don't get your nails done, don't get your eyelashes done, and use that money to pay off your debts and make those financial amends first. Now we come to the people who you cannot make financial amends to. The babysitter I ripped off, that I don't know who she is or where she is because I was in my active alcoholism and I don't have a clue. Or the people that you can't trace the money to. There are ways to get creative with your financial amends, and we make a universal amends. The first one is the drug dealer you might owe money to. We probably don't want to pay the drug dealer back unless he's going to cause you physical harm because you're enabling this cycle to go for other people, right? So what you can do is if you owe your drug dealer $100, you can donate $100 to a charity that helps pay for treatment center beds. Or you can put that $100 in the seventh tradition basket. That makes it right to the universe. Call it karma, call it universe, call it your amends, right? So for the people, like I stole a big book, right? I can't get back to that person and give them a big book. I buy big books for people all the time. I read the stolen big book and pass this knowledge on. That is a creative amends. But if you owe someone money that you can't find, make a universal amends. Put that in the seventh pot. Pay for somebody else's gas. Gas, car insurance, and time are also financial amends. Drive people to meetings. If you stole change to take the bus, give bus money to a new person. Or if you stole food from a grocery store, buy groceries for a senior that can't afford it. We can get creative in these amends. If you stole from your employer, we're going to probably talk about that in the next couple of things. But we do these amends the best way we can. We don't get a free pass. right? Like I owed a drug dealer $100, and I saw someone that looked like him walking down the street, and I went, oh, I owe that money. I was like, free pass. I don't have to pay that back. Then I talked to my sponsor, and she came up with the idea of putting the money in the basket. We got to make sure that we get a little creative, because we all owe all sorts of amends for things that we aren't going to be able to trace back. All right, let's chat about it. Anne Marie, I saw you had your hand up. Unmute.
Yeah, I did. I was just a little concerned about the passage where, we must lose our fear of creditors. There was no way in hell I was going to tell my mortgage holder that I was an alcoholic. He'd have called in the loan, and I couldn't pay it. Okay? There's no way in hell I was going to tell my insurance company, because there's a clause in the insurance policy that says anything that's alcohol or drug related, fuck you. So although I believe, and I don't really care who knows that I'm an alcoholic, those two don't know. Even though it's been 15 years, they ain't gonna find out from me.
Right, but you made it right. Did you make it right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So the mortgage is paid off.
Right. So we can call and say, hey, I've had some personal stuff going on. The wording is optional. Myself, I just became forthright. That was just me. But like you said about insurance, I had this conversation with someone else. Life insurance, don't lie. Do not lie on your life insurance. And remember, there is a statute of limitations. So for it's okay to ask a clarifying question, because the statute of limitations on my personal life insurance policy is 5 years. So once I've been clean and sober for 5 years, I no longer have to declare it. If I relapse, then I have to redeclare it. So it's okay to ask a clarifying question when it says on a life insurance or thing, and it says, have you ever been to treatment for alcoholism or drugs? If you don't answer that correctly and you die, your kids or your family will not get paid if they find out. And so we have to be forthright and honest in those situations. But like Anne Marie said, if I go to the bank, I didn't tell them anything at first. But one day I was in the bank and it was like falling apart, and I just started crying. And the bank manager took me into her office, and I said, look, I'm going through the worst divorce ever, and I'm trying to recover from alcoholism, and I'm just like, I was at the bottom. And that moment for me was when I realized how gracious and loving she was, and she treated me so well. And I wasn't scared. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid anymore. But there are delicate situations where you say, yes, I'm slow to pay and I'm having some financial difficulties. How can we work this out? You don't have to say, I'm a raging alcoholic. I'm trying to get clean and sober, because there are certain things that it's going to come back and bite you in the butt. Thank you, Anne Marie. Bev! Oh, yeah. I hate the mute button.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies. Really grateful to be here. I'm grateful recovered alcoholic. And just two quick things. One, I did come in with a lot of debt that I'd never had in my life, that I accumulated the 3 or 4 years prior to coming in. And so in my first year of recovery, I ended up paying off a $10,000 hospital bill. That was just in my first year. And then I took money that I would have spent on alcohol and just kind of dumped it in a jar kind of thing. And then the other thing, somebody in the chat asked for, suppose you stole alcohol from your employer. That was my hardest amends that I had to make ever. It took me 2 years to make that amends, and I stole alcohol, and I mean, I'm not talking a little bit, I'm talking a lot, from this particular employer. And so I was the bar manager, and on Mondays I would order the liquor, and on Tuesdays I'd pick it up and promptly drop some off at my house before I took it all back to work. During the week, if I'd run out, I carried a big briefcase, and I would bring home bottles in the bottom of the briefcase. So the problem was not that I was afraid to make the amends, but I was afraid that I would implicate my husband, because he was aiding me in all of this stuff. but he never would have done it had it not been for me. So I just had to make sure in my heart and talk it through with him. Was it really okay to do it? Because we're not supposed to make an amends that will hurt that person or others. So what happened was, after 2 years, yes, my husband agreed, and we decided, because it was eating me up, it was killing me. We decided that I would make the amends. So I went to the general manager of the club, and lo and behold, his dad was an alcoholic. So he was very proud of me for coming in. He was very gracious, and he did not report me to the board, which the members of the club owned the club, so that it was a board of trustees. So I was not reported to the board, and it was probably one of the most relieving amends that I had to make. But we need to face any and all amends in some fashion. If you have a question, talk it over with your sponsor first, because I always talked it over with my sponsor before I went to make an amends, unless it was one that I just happened to see somebody, and I could do it on point. But for the most part, I talked to my sponsor before I made the amends, and I prayed about it. So, and I just didn't pray about the amends in general. I had to pray about every one that I was doing.
Yeah.
That's all. Thanks.
Thanks so much. And we'll revert back to step 8, which is if there's something you're not willing to do, we're going to pray for the willingness. So if there's one like the one with the dad or the one with the employer, we're going to counsel with another alcoholic who is familiar with the process in the book, and we're going to pray for the willingness to do it. And that's where those remarkable things happen. I will just say we are going to talk about crimes and workplaces in the next few readings. So we're going to stick to money right now. For those who maybe don't know what we're talking about, Margaret. Whoopsies, sorry, I hit you twice. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Kim. My name is Margaret, and I'm an alcoholic. So great. Yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit of my experience with this. I went from riding with bikers to eventually becoming a financial advisor. So I get both sides of this street. Anyway, it has been my experience as a financial advisor and a banking person that, I've had some very humbling meetings in my office with people that are coming to share, and we find a way to work it out. I've also, in British Columbia here, ICBC is our big automobile insurance people. And, I've seen somebody struggling, a fairly new fellow, and he'd had a big accident with no insurance. Anyway, the long and the short of it is exactly what Bev was saying. And I've seen this a few times, pray about it, you pray for the willingness. And God has amazing way of, having miracles work out. And for this one person who had a major car accident, thousands and thousands of dollars were forgiven. Like thousands of dollars were forgiven. And we just have to do the work, and God will do the rest. But I do believe that I cannot be looking over my shoulder at things that I haven't cleaned up. And I did lots of crazy things too. I stole I stole money from our church. My mom was the choir leader of our church, and I stole money there, and had to make amends for all, and many, many other things. But anyway, that was my message, is that somehow we have to find a way to get honest with everybody and everything. And it doesn't happen overnight. We don't get sick overnight, and we don't get completely better overnight. It's time. Thank you.
Thank you. And further to that, I know 2 experiences myself dealing with ICBC where I owed over $17,000. And one of the women in the fellowship works for ICBC. And she's like, well, didn't anybody ever tell you that you could do X, Y, and Z? And I ended up having to pay less than $2,000, and it made it right. And I'm now a road star with a 40% discount. What I found is when you get honest and you talk to people and you're willing because you've prayed, the stuff that comes before you, like that bank manager that I just basically was at the end of my rope that day, and my bank account was like negative, and my ex-husband was it was awful, and I just broke down in sheer desperation. And what happened was she ended up helping me sort it out where I didn't even think that I could ask for that help. And she sat with me in her office. We printed everything out and we came up with a plan. And now I'm able to help other people with that knowledge. And so, don't be afraid. And if you are, pray, because that's where like the weirdest things happen. And you're like, whoa. Yvonne.
Hi, I'm Yvonne. I'm an alcoholic. It's something that's just been on my mind. I have to talk it over with my sponsor, who is also a financial advisor. But I've got 2 foreclosures and a bankruptcy, and it's a little intimidating to think about that. I've cleared up a bunch of other, credit cards paid down. There are some, I am now separated from my husband. There's some things in both of our names that have high balances that he uses that I also have to figure out how to get rid of. But just the thought of paying that back, I mean, it's something that I know I need to take care of. It's just a little overwhelming right now, and I know it will get taken care of, but just the thought of it, like I said, is a little intimidating. So thanks. That's it.
Well, and I can speak on that from experience I've shared before. I was in the middle of a really heated divorce with a lot of things at stake and a lot of debt, and then my partner passed away. So I not only had the mess of the divorce and then the mess of the estate, and I'm still in that mess, but still got peace and serenity in my life. But what happens is, like Yvonne says, like we ask for help. What we're not used to doing is asking for help because we're in that shame and that guilt. But it's amazing what happens when you actually open your mouth and you say, I don't know what to do, whether it's to your sponsor or to someone in the fellowship who has identified themselves as a financial advisor. It's crazy, the stuff that happens. And yes, Margaret just said in the chat, we need to show we're making the effort, because normally we don't pick up the phone and we ignore it. And guess what? That big mountain gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then guess what? It says it in our book. Our problems become so big we can't handle them. But as a group, we've got lots of experience in here. Hannah. Whoops. Can you unmute? There you go.
Hi, I'm Hannah, an alcoholic. Very grateful to, I just raised my hand again. Very grateful to be here. This is my second time here, and Kimberly, you've been so helpful. But I just have a question. I don't know if this has already been answered or not. Has anyone had experience with I have 2 credit cards that I've been trying to pay off for years, and they've been at the same balance. Like, have you ever had experience with going in and having your interest lowered, or anything with helping with credit card payments?
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And the best thing you can do is ask.
So what, I just call my bank? Call the bank
that your credit card is and says, you know what? Can we lower the rate? Can I get this? Can I consolidate? And what my financial advisor said is like that. Instead of getting your nails done 1 month, or instead of paying for that, pay a little bit extra. And trust me, it works. And now I've got different tips. Like, I went from paying it all off to now I'm rebuilding my credit with new tips that she's giving me on how I can increase my credit score. And it works. Like, I thought I was going to have to file for bankruptcy because of the divorce and the estate law. Like, I thought there was no way I could come out from this. And all I did was ask for help. And
if you, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was really helpful. And while I'm at the light, I wanted to say, if you get your nails done, I started buying the glue-on nails, and I know it sounds cheap, but nowadays, prior to 5 or 10 years ago, they actually make really beautiful glue-on nails that you can shape the way you want to shape them, and they're only $10 a set, so you save a whole lot of money if you get those instead. CVS, for example, has a lot of options.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just use that as an example because there's a lot of things that, especially we as ladies, spend money on And it's like, if I didn't spend that $40 or $50 on that, I could be paying my credit card off faster. So
Yeah.
what's more important? Well, in my spiritual condition, more important is straightening out the past. And then miraculous things happen and people are like, hey, will you do my taxes and I'll do your nails? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Tradesies, right? So then I'm able to put that money aside, do a service, and get my nails done, right? So it's like we can be, it all comes around real fast when you start trying.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leslie.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here. Leslie, alcoholic. I had financial amends come up when I retired from teaching. I had fibbed a little to the IRS on how much I had spent on school supplies of my own personal money. And it was over 17 years, and the total amount of taxes I owed on it was probably less than about $300, but it was tearing me up. And I talked to an old timer about it, and he said the same thing as you, Kimberly. Give the money to the club, to charities, and even to this day, that was 5 years ago. I like to over tip people that I know could use it. And he said, if they audited you, you would fess up. And I said, oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I have the peace of mind. So even that was overwhelming me, my alcoholic brain, the IRS. He was like, no, don't go get yourself in a big mess over less than $300. But if it comes up again, then I know. Okay, and it hasn't. I haven't even thought about it for years until this meeting. So thank you all for being here and for all the awesome shares. Love you. That's all I got.
Thank you. Faith.
Hi, Faith Alcoholic. I love each and every one of you. Oh my God. So at home, I wanted to share some experience strength at home. I do mortgages, okay? I know about the bankruptcy stuff, and I've helped so many women. I'm licensed in 11 different states. You don't need to call me. But what I will share with you is that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac allow you to refinance 2 years from a discharge of your bankruptcy. If it's a Chapter 13, that's the one where you give up your house to. And also 4 years after a bankruptcy where you get to keep your home on a Chapter 7. If you have had a short sale, oopsie daisy, 4 years, you can go refinance after that. Seeing that you have a credit score of at least a 640 or higher, you can get it for lower, but get the best rate you can. If you've had foreclosure, you have to wait 7 years. I have talked to scores of people that thought they had to wait 10 or that they would never. It's out there. And guess what? With the equity in your home, that would actually be helpful in consolidating all the interest. Property values have gone up, so don't count yourself out. If you need help understanding if you get there or if you met that time frame, I can help you. You just want to make sure you know whether your bankruptcy was in a discharge or dismissal, no matter what it was. That's all I got.
Like I said, we got information. All you got to do is ask for it, right? And in those 2 years, once it's been discharged before you call Faith, that's when you're stopping your nails, you're stopping your hair, you're stopping all that extra spending, and you're paying off that debt. So your credit score's going up so that when that 2 years is over, you're not hooped. This is how we can gain the knowledge together to get this going. Poor Della can't raise her hand, so she's sitting there with her hand up.
Right? It's all good. So what if, like, you know that you had credit debt, but it's already gone past? Do you know what I mean? Like, you've left it so long that they're not even calling you anymore? What?
I can tell you. Okay, and some people that are really old school are not going to like what I'm going to say, but this is what was told to me by my financial advisor. In Canada, it's 7 years. So my divorce was in 2015. So guess what's coming up, right? So a lot of the stuff on my credit report is 2014 and 2015. In Canada, double check with a credit advisor in the States if you are in the States. So in Canada, if you are coming up on that 6 and 7 year mark, my financial advisor says you do not engage that creditor because it resets the date of last activity. So the 7 years resets.
Yeah.
So if I called that creditor at 6 years and made a payment arrangement, I've just moved the 7 years. I am still going to make all my financial amends. I'm going to be the kindest person. I'm going to drive people to meetings. But as far as increasing my credit score, to do that resets your 7 years. And so for things that old, I have been advised to move forward and pay the most recent things first.
Okay.
That was what is, but this is your program, your spirituality, your God. So if you have this angst in your mind that after 6 years, the company, I'm telling you right now, has already written it off on their taxes.
Exactly.
If it is a person, pay the money. But if it's a credit, it's a company, they have written it off on their taxes, living amends, move forward, pay the most recent stuff.
I was just going to say, move forward and do the right.
Yeah.
Do the next
And
best
Margaret said, check the credit bureau. This is my information I got from sitting down with a financial advisor at my bank, looking at my credit report. And if that 7 year mark passes, you write the credit bureau and say 7 years is up, please remove, and they will remove it. I've had experience in this department. So
awesome. Thank you.
Weird how I've had so many life experiences and I'm only 40. Anyways. But yeah, I only know Canadian BC. So if you are somewhere else, talk to someone who is in your local area and knows your local laws. Leslie.
Me, Leslie?
Yes, you, Leslie.
Hey, hi. I'm phoning from Kelowna. This is a whole new thing for me on my phone.
That's why I called you, because poor Justine's waiting because I know you're in your car. Okay, go.
Thanks to a couple of ladies who helped me, guide me to get on here. I survived Home Depot with my husband. I know you guys are talking about financials, eh? The way I look at it is being an alcoholic and living with an alcoholic. What I did was I made sure that I secured funds. I kept my own bank account and I squirreled away money and made sure that I paid off my debts. It's not easy to do, but when I was single on welfare, not drinking, not smoking, not doing drugs, not doing anything, and not eating either, I still tithe to the church, my 10%. You can do it. You have to be focused. And you just have to, it's just like you put that money away. You say, I don't own that money, you know, whether it's a tax-free savings account, like you're building up your nest egg, and never give up your bank account. Never give up your, that independence, that autonomy. I've known friends that have done it, and as women, it's very like you lose yourself, you lose your identity. You know, always keep something. Always have a credit card, and just even if you use it a little bit and pay it off right away. You have to be in that game. It's the kind of situation where you have to have a credit with today. Otherwise, like your credit score. Like I got a great credit score. I don't know. It's just I just fortunate, and stuff like that. But and squirrel that money away, so that you've got a little bit. You've got that little bit of an edge. For a rainy day. That's what I gotta say, and hope to be listening to you ladies.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thanks, Leslie. And yeah, that's a teeny tiny bit off topic where we're talking financial amends, but yes, a lot of us in this room are in domestic partnerships that are not the healthiest, because That's just the nature of the beast. A lot of us are in unhealthy relationships, and as a person who has gone through two really awful separations where, you know, I started from zero. Like, I left my first marriage with not even shoes on my feet, just pajamas. And so, you know, that is really great advice. One thing I will add is about, like she mentioned, tithe, and it hit me, the seventh tradition. If you owe tons and tons of money everywhere, donate to your home group, not to every meeting you attend. Some people feel like they need to put in $1 at every meeting you attend. If you're not financially rehabilitated, do not put into the seventh tradition. Get yourself in a situation. And then once you're in a healthier financial situation, I give generously to the seventh tradition because I'm in a position where I can now. So donate situationally, not because the person next to you is donating more than you and you feel that judgment. Do not please make yourself feel like you have to if you can't. Alrighty, Justine, you've waited so long and been so patient.
No worries. Hey everyone, Justine, alcoholic. Okay, this like ninth step is like not necessarily tearing me apart. And I'm like, I feel like I'm confused, but not. I have so many questions. So maybe, you know, I could call you and kind of ask you a couple of the ones I've written down. I've asked for some advice. And since we're just talking about financial stuff, I'll just keep it to that. So like I never had a credit card, thank Jesus. You know, I don't have like a lot of like, I never owned a home. Like I kind of, you know, I was able to kind of avoid that stuff, but there are financial amends, I suppose, like in situations where, so for money amends, if you don't know how much was given to you, like in specifically, like I was with a partner who like, he pretty much paid for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's something like for me is like a harm because I wasn't independent in that sense really, and it was more so put on the other person's shoulders. And like, you know, even afterwards I would ask to borrow money and stuff and I never paid it back. And I have brought it up with him before and he's just like, you know, don't worry about it, you don't have to pay it off. And honestly, like neither of us have kept track of that money. So is that so in that instant, like is that one of those amends that I can make, just like, yeah, like walking amends? So maybe I could take him to dinner or, you know, like those kind of things, or, you know, kind of just treat people who have given me money that I can't, like, I don't know the correct amount for.
Yep.
And that goes with like, even just when you were saying too, like, I've never stolen like huge amounts of money from anyone, but it's like those little things here and there.
Yeah.
So that's more of like a walking amends because I can't keep track of it. And it's honestly like one of those things that's tearing me apart inside is just like, there are so many people I feel like I've harmed, but like how deep do I go into that? And like how far back do I go into that?
Well, definitely this is amazing because you know what I hear? The willingness. I hear amazing willingness to make it right, and that's the key, right? And how we do it is where we get creative. And so, yeah, I gave you my phone number, but for instance, the guys we date that we freeload off of, right? Like, yeah, we've all done that, right? So the living amends is we're not going to do that anymore, but if there's one specific person like that gentleman, we can be creative. Dinner, I think, might be a little bit iffy because that's one of those loose end type things where we might get all wacky in our head.
We are still quite close though, so it's not like we are close friends, so I don't feel like it's weird and he knows I'm just friends with him. So
yeah, but is there like, this is where we can get creative and how I can help you a little bit and how other people can help with their sponsors is if he maybe likes sports or he maybe likes fishing or he maybe likes something. This is where you can say, I know you said that it was okay, but I still felt I needed to do something. So here's a couple tickets to the hockey game. Or here's a weekend at the Kingfisher fishing place, right? It's just a token to make it right. and to show that you're trying and willing to make it right. And all the other ones, that's where we can, helping with charities, putting a little bit extra in the pot when we think of things.
That's kind of what I wrote down there, because I got some good advice, like even like volunteering or like for things, because I feel like for me financial amends is like also stealing. Like I stole from a lot of grocery stores, I stole from a lot of shops, like I stole from a lot of people, and it's like, okay, so now maybe I can volunteer more hours, so like volunteer as many hours as I work, maybe, or
when you're at the Tim Hortons drive-through or the McDonald's drive-through,
like those little
pay
things
for the order behind you. Like random acts of kindness to make it right. Yeah.
And there's one, I heard a really good one the other day, like where it's just if you've stolen from stores, some people were kind of mentioning like you could go to those stores and you can buy a couple extra things to maybe pay for whatever you stole. And I was like, okay, that's cool, like I can do that totally. But then I would feel like kind of guilty about keeping those things for myself. So I kind of thought maybe it'd be a good thing, so if anyone's like stolen from stores and wants to go and buy a couple extra things, you could gift those things to other people maybe you have harmed.
You put them in the food box for the food bank donation.
Okay.
Right? So you go to this most grocery stores. If it's not food, you buy some clothing and donate it to the Women's Recovery House.
Yeah, I wrote that stuff down as well. So
there's lots of creative things you can do to make it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just kind of in my head. I'm like, am I doing this right? Like,
and you don't have to declare it to get the good go and shine your gold star. You just do it.
No, it's just doing those things for people without, getting that recognition.
Yeah, exactly. Random acts of kindness make it right.
Okay, cool. All right, I got
Tammy, and then we're gonna move on.
I don't know if I missed it or not. What happens when you, how do you tactfully approach someone when you owe them a lot of money, but you don't know how much that is?
You just say that right now. Hey, I'm trying to make right some of the things from my past. You probably owe them an amends for something else. So you're going to be like, I deeply regret all of the things I've done in the past. I'm really trying to change and be on a better footing in life. I know I owe you money, but I have no idea how much. Is there a sum that would make it right?
Thank you.
Yeah. And they'll probably go, I don't know. I just wrote it off in my head. Well, this amount. And then whatever amount they say, unless it's ridiculous, just agree. Don't barter.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. I think it's almost rude to ask them how much.
No.
No.
No. That's just you working with your willingness.
Okay.
And as long as they're not ridiculously out to lunch.
No, but they're really nice. They're probably going to go, don't forget about it. Which means, I feel bad that I even put them in that position. I feel like I should just go with them to money and give it to them and make them take it.
Well, that's like I just said to Justine too, right? If they say don't worry about it, just do a random nice thing. And yes, I'm choking on a carrot.
That's okay. Choke away. Oh, wait, your kids aren't home, are they?
Yeah, they're here.
Report card time. Hi.
Yeah.
Summer.
All right. One sec. Oh my goodness. All right. So moving on to bottom of page 78. This is God telling me I should have sugar, right? Perhaps we have committed a criminal offense, which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. We may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. We have already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we are sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. Maybe it's only a petty offense, such as padding the expense account. Most of us have done that sort of thing. All right, so we're going to stop and talk about criminal things. Does anybody want to raise their hand and talk while I get this out of my throat first? Yvonne.
Yeah, it's I've stolen from my job, and I'm gonna make fun, but I know it's not only stamps and pens and stuff, but I also do the expense accounts for the guys, and I see the padding all the time on it, and it makes me crazy. But yeah, things. And I'm sure back, if I think about it and look at it, I've stolen other things, and more than just what I'm thinking at work, and I can justify it. And I still know it's not right. I worked overtime all this time and never got paid for it, so they owe me this, or things like that. And I do know that's wrong. And I know the guy's expensive, that's their thing, not mine. But I guess for me too, it's part of where do I draw the line on that? I'm processing their expense accounts. Am I in a sense stealing if I process and I know that the numbers aren't right? So anyway, that's kind of where my head's at the moment. So thanks. Next.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm alive. Marla.
I have loved the way that you've emphasized willingness throughout the whole thing. When we've gone through these experiences every week, every day, we meet. But one of the things that I've come to realize is, if I put out my best effort instead of worrying about doing the least little bit or how to control it, if I say, okay, higher power, and with a sponsor, it's really been a great experience too, is to say, I'm going to take this one thing that I need to make right and pray about how to make it right. And it's amazing the things that higher power comes up with, or putting that person in your path, or like you've already said, putting somebody else in the path who knows how to help you make it clean. But the important thing is that I do it with all the willingness and intention to do it, because I don't want to get to step 10 or whatever and still have those squiggly feelings knowing that I had BS'd around. It's better to pray about it and get some relief. That's the whole reason why I'm doing this in the first place, to go into my new life with a clean bill of honest behavior. So does that make sense? Anyways, it's been cool, the things that higher powers put in my path. So thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. And yeah, the willingness is the key. Absolutely. Because when we force ourselves to do this stuff and we're not willing, we're not really being honest, and things don't really turn out that well. I will say a little bit about the criminal offenses. I do know a lot of people who have things that have been outstanding, maybe outstanding warrants for their arrest or outstanding criminal things. And again, it talks earlier in the book about the amazing things that there's been no problem amongst us that hasn't been overcome. I've seen the worst situations turn out really, really good, simply because people were willing and got honest, and they walked into the courtroom and sat in front of the judge, and they thought for sure they were going to go to jail, but they had demonstrated this change in their life, and miraculous things happened. Like that the judge actually has said, we're really impressed with the change that you've made. Good going, keep it up. And then they've gotten probation when they thought for sure they were going to jail. So we don't run and hide from these things. If there's an outstanding warrant for your arrest, you're going to deal with it the proper way. Get your affairs in order. If it incriminates another person, we need to tread very lightly and seek counsel on that, because we don't want to cause more harm in correcting our lives. And this is where especially Tony talks about, those statute of limitations and who we talk to and what we say, because there may be people that are affected by our behavior and what we do in this process. But to speak of Yvonne's expense account, I was in accounting and I saw those big holes in expense accounts. And I would say, I need the documentation to back this up. So if you're submitting these, you need to have the receipts attached. I wasn't the most loved person, but that's my job. My job is not to make friends and look out for the shady salesperson. My job is to do my job, and my job was to keep the books right. And so I have to do my job as it's described. Faith.
Hey, so I speak to the court time. I was facing my second DUI within a 5-year period in the United States. That was right after they said 10-year imposed, suspended license, can't drive no matter what. I wasn't a mom then. I went to court. I got 2 days of jail. Listen to my story. You'll think I spent a year in there. Those 2 days sobered me up. I'm good. That was my death, but that was my bottom. I own that. I was able, because I was sober, to have people in court vouching for me. Per my attorney's request, I'm seeking the professional. I'm not a lawyer. So I'm not trying to be a lawyer and come up with, catastrophe, but I'm talking about my sponsor. Second thing, I have a sponsee. She served jail time for 4 months sober in the middle of her sobriety at a year and a half. Ooh, that hurt. But guess what? She got through it. Take God with you or don't go. It's so serious. If you're not desperate to get this program and to really trust your higher power, I said today, I'm afraid because I think I can because God won't. Guess what? My girlfriend shares with me, Faith, that's good. And I get to work on that. And so I get to move forward with that piece. When the willingness is there, you can face anything.
Absolutely. And you don't want those skeletons following you around anymore. You're not going to be happy, joyous, and free if you're waiting for the bailiff or the police to knock on your door and for your past to catch up on you. We face our pasts and we correct it. I answer all the phone calls that come to me. Most of the time, I'm not scared of the phone. Sometimes I wait until I'm ready to answer the phone, but yeah, Faith, keep going.
Okay, one more thing. I had another friend in the program. She was under a year sober, 6 months. Served a jail sentence of 6 months. But guess what? Because she was honest, people that loved her in her home group, my home group, we wrote letters, we sent her money, all that stuff. We got you. That's the tribe of women.
And there's lawyers in our fellowship that will help you too. Usually when you talk to people. Yeah, I have written letters for court. I have also sat on child custody calls where you have to vouch for the person with what they're doing in their program. I won't lie for anyone, but if you're working your program and you're active in the fellowship, absolutely. Alrighty, let's read a little more. Oh wait, what time is it? Oh, it's the end of the day. Should we end on page 78? Yeah, we're going to get into marriage and divorce on the next page. That'll take a whole hour on Friday. Oh, yeah. All right, ladies. Thank you so much. We got through 2 paragraphs today.